Good afternoon, Pokésports, and welcome to another tier list video. In today's tier list, we're going to be taking a look at the rock type, which is kind of weird type for me because on paper, being weak to water, grass, being weak to fighting, those are very common typings. That's not a great thing to be weak to. Being weak to ground, being weak to steel. In general, it's a lot of weaknesses. But ironically, there's a lot of good rock type Pokemon. Because offensively speaking, it's a great type against, fire types, which are really annoying. Flying types, which are really annoying. So they can definitely make things happen. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with this tier list. Now, looking at the top of the rock types, I think this goes without saying, and if you've seen or played Pokemon any time in the past 2 years, you would have seen this Pokemon in a competitive battle. Our friend, Colossal, S tier, best rock type that exists. When you give a Pokemon an ability that gives it +6 speed, who would have guessed it's a good Pokemon? Incredible. On top of that, with the Dynamax adding on to its tankiness with the great stab of both rock and fire types, the really cool G-Max Vocalith move, which makes, residual damage every single turn afterwards. It's a great Pokemon, man. And all you gotta do is stick it next to a Pokemon that learns Water Jet or Aqua Jet, get to +6 speed, win the game. Of course, there are counters to it, and people have found ways around it, but on paper, one of the best rock type Pokemon in existence, ever played, seen, or used. That's where it belongs. Now, bottom of the list, absolute garbage pieces of doo-doo. Who are we gonna put there? I actually don't think I see a bigger one beyond Corsola. Corsola isn't that great. Cursola, on the other hand, or Galarian Corsola, is very good. But for some reason, a water rock type, it doesn't do much beyond anything. It kind of just sits there like the useless life form that it is and makes houses for other life forms. Yeah, Corsola, you're going to stay in F tier. Sorry. Sorry, friend. But moving on with the rest of the list, I do want to look at some solid A tier, see who we're going to stick in the A tier on this list. And one of the ones that I want to add on to the A tier includes Terrakion. Now, Terrakion saw a lot of play earlier in the metagame. It doesn't see a lot of play anymore, which is why I don't want to put it in S tier, because I haven't seen what this Pokemon can do ever since, Whimsicott came out. Whimsicott and Terrakion Beat Up came out. But the thing is, if you get that going, you can win the game with just Terrakion, which is why I want to give a little bit, put a little bit on respect on Terrakion's name. The issue with Terrakion right now is just that its speed tier that used to be good is no longer good because they introduced Calyrex, Zacian, Pheromosa, and Regirock to the game. So, the speed tier is looking a little rough. And when you have a Zacian that can outspeed you and one-shot you with the super effective stab steel move, yeah, it's not a great place to be. But that's why I'm going to go ahead and stick it in the A tier. Moving on, I want to stick something in the B tier just to kind of give us a guideline of where we are going. I think a solid B tier will be a Tyrantrum. I have used Tyrantrum, and people have let me know in the Dragon video that I might have ranked Tyrantrum too low in the Dragon type video. And I went back and thought about it, and I agree with you guys, because I honestly have used it, and it does hit like a truck. It might not have the greatest typing in the game, but it at the very least hits like a truck and can get some KOs. So with that, I'll give some respect to its name and put it in the B tier. Looking at some C tier mons though. What are some C tier mons? I know what are D tier mons. D tier mons that scream out to me are gonna be, actually I guess Carbink is a nice C tier. But I was gonna say D tier mons are kind of Lunatone and Solrock. They're both psychic rock types, which is pretty interesting. They do get cool things like Trick Room, and they can maybe set up with weakness policy because they are weak to dark, and it's really easy to set up weakness policy with a weakness to dark. They're also weak to ground, so it's really good to set weakness policy in that direction too, but they get Levitate. Adoy, never mind. Forgot that's the one thing they have that's good is Levitate. But yeah, I mean, I don't see them doing anything astronomical. At least Carbink can set up dual screens. Carbink can set up Trick Room. Carbink can explode. It has a purpose. It feels a niche. So that's kind of why I think Carbink is better than those two on paper. But I want to look at some more top tier mods, man. Some stronger Pokemon. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put Gigalith in S tier and Tyranitar. Gigalith in A tier and Tyranitar in S tier. The reason why is because I think Tyrantrum is better than Gigalith because it is faster, so it's more versatile. It can also work in Trick Room, theoretically. It has the capabilities of going special or physical. Does have a lot of weaknesses, but its stats are so high that it doesn't matter. The stat difference between these two Pokemon is huge. And if they essentially do the same thing by setting up sand, then which one would you rather use? I think I'd rather stick with T-Tar in that sense. Not to say that Gigalith is bad, it's just a worse T-Tar. Aerodactyl. I'll give Aerodactyl a B because I do not believe Aerodactyl is as good as Gigalith in most situations. Don't get me wrong, I love that Pokemon because it does get access to Tailwind and very fast rock slides. In general, something that you'll be able to notice is that a lot of these rock types are very slow, right? There's very few rock types that can be fast. Aerodactyl is one of the exceptions. So that's one reason why I want to give Aerodactyl a little bit of respect there. Moving on with the list. Aggron is another B tier. I think Aggron, if played correctly, can do something. It's definitely not as bad as Carbink, so I think Aggron, if played correctly, maybe you can make something happen. Obviously, wouldn't guarantee using it in every case situations, but hey, I'm not going to stop you guys. Rhyperior, S tier instantly. Rhyperior took over the metagame in a time where Trick Room was very popular, Trick Room was really prevalent, and Trick Room was at a point where if you set it up, you would win with a Dynamax Rhyperior. You give weakness policies to this thing, people pretty much always had to two-shot you because of the solid rock ability. And yeah, weakness policy on a base 140 attack Pokemon is terrifying. Who would have guessed? Regirock, I'll give an A tier to Regirock. Regirock was popular for a quick second. You guys remember that time where Regirock and Registeel were being used and Regice was crying in a corner? Yeah, it was popular for a time and for good reason. Iron Defense Body Press was a thing, and everyone loves to, use that dumb strategy. And on top of it, you can set up Iron Defenses and, just Dynamax. Go for max Rock Falls, which is already terrifying. So, Regirock, respect. Diancie, though. I'll say Diancie is A tier. Definitely A tier. Diancie is really good. I mean, it's unfortunate that I was never able to use it in competitive play for VGC, but I was able to use it in singles. It's very nice. It's very interesting typing Rock and Fairy, right? And, having a super effective Moonblast stab is so OP. So I give respect to Diancie. I think it does deserve a spot in the A tier. Speaking of A tier, I want to put this top A tier. I think Nihilego is a very great Pokemon, very versatile, right? Has access to Power Gem, Meteor Beam, Sludge Bomb, Trick Room, Protect, Wide Guard. You have options. Does it get Wide Guard? Don't quote me on Wide Guard. I'm not sure. I thought it did, but I'm starting to have doubts. I think I'm thinking about Stack Attack. So we'll get to Wide Guard in a second. But yeah, Nihilego can do pretty much everything you need to do. It has very high special attack. Has very high special defense. If you can get it set up, you get a bunch of beast boosts, you can knock out the majority of the metagame. Now we're starting to get to slim pickings here. Bastiodon is probably C tier because you can maybe set up iron defenses. You do have sturdy, so I don't think you're worse than these two. Probopass, and a lot of you guys made fun of me because I was calling this nose pass the other day. Probopass kind of the same thing, right? Very similar situation with the rock and steel type. Very similar situation with the weaknesses and the sturdy. They kind of accomplish very similar archetypes and they fit teams in a very similar way. Cradily, though. I'll give Cradily A tier. Storm Drain, especially right now, is so scary. Now, I'm actually surprised that Cradily, being a Pokemon that has Storm Drain and a Grass Stab, isn't being seen more. The only unfortunate thing is that its attack is very high, so if it does face a Kyogre face-to-face, it'd be forced to Dynamax, or else Kyogre probably will just, shrug away those attacks, right? But yeah, Cradily can be terrifying. The problem with it is also, Zacian is everywhere with Kyogre, and Cradily is a rock type, so a lot of these Pokemon are going to have problems with Zacian. Whether they like it or not. With a Zacian in the metagame, the Pokemon that doesn't care too much about it only really cares if Zacian does have a fighting move, which most of them do. But I think Stack Attacka has redefined Trick Room as a whole, It's very good against Xerneas with safety goggles because they can't redirect you with rage powders. You can pretty much one-shot after they set up Geomancy with a Gyro Ball. Yeah, Stack Attack, one of the slowest Pokemon in the game. Unfortunately, does have not a great typing because it has 2 4x weaknesses, but its defenses are so high that honestly, sometimes it doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and stick Stack Attack in the S tier where it belongs. Moving on towards the bottom of the list, we have Golem. I guess Golem is a C tier. Sudowoodo I'll put in D tier. I'm not seeing Sudowoodo do anything. It does get sturdy, which is interesting, but what does it do after that? Kind of nothing. I'll give Shuckle a B tier because Shuckle can be so annoying. In fact, I'll put it top of B tier. Shuckle can be one of the most annoying Pokemon in the game, especially if paired with the right Pokemon. If paired next to the Chansey or the Blissey. Definitely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. Lord Helix. I'm going to give this A tier. Guys, the reason why I'm giving this A tier is because there was a time where Amistar with weakness policy and, you know, a quick grass move, not grass move, or like a, you know, bulldoze or a quick weakness policy proccing move. It's got a lot of weaknesses. You got a lot of choices to choose from. In Rain with Dynamax was terrifying. I don't know if you guys remember that. I definitely remember it. I want to put an A tier just because I think there's such a gimmick here, and there's a spot for it. I'll give Caracosta a B tier because it also does get Swift Swim. Does a very similar thing to Amistar, just does a little bit worse because its attack stats are a little bit worse. Crustle I'll give B. Does have the Shell Smash option. Goes fast, hits hard. Macargo is super underwhelming. I think Macargo was like an extra bad Colossal. It's a Colossal that doesn't get a good ability, so there's literally no reason to ever use Macargo, unfortunately. In fact, I might even stick that in D. I can't see it. Okay, it's sad because I love Macargo as a Pokemon. I don't know why Slugma always interested me when I was a child. But man, are you bad? Relicanth is another bad fish. We'll stick it in the D tier. I don't think it's just as bad as Corsola, but at least doesn't deserve to be played too much. Archeops is interesting. I'm going to put Archeops in C tier because it can be good if you get rid of its ability. If you have a Weezing and you're able to just knock off Defeatist, maybe it can be a lot better because you wouldn't lose half of your attack if Defeatist is broken. Or if you had a Comfey next to you, Comfey can maybe keep Floral healing you to always keep you above. How does Defeatist work? Does it go up? No, a Defeatist wants you to be under half. Oh, okay, yeah. The problem is, you're never under half. You're either full HP or 0 HP with Archeops. There's no in between, so you really do have to just go ahead and get rid of that ability as soon as you can with the Weezing. Moving on, let's do the Lycan Rocks. I do think there's such a good spot for this because of Sand Rush. Here's what we'll do. We'll do an A, a C, and a B with this one. This one's interesting because it gets Tough Claws. This one's interesting because it does get Sand Rush, so it becomes very fast. Also has access to a Cell Rock. This doesn't see too much play and doesn't get used too much because its speed is very not great, which sucks because it's probably these three are probably the coolest designed Gen 7 Pokemon in my opinion. Like they look like they spent so much time on designing these and then they made them so, I mean, at least these two kind of lackluster and disappointing to me. Lycan Rock, you know, regular, I think that's dusk, that's dawn. This is daytime? Morning? This is regular? I don't know. This Lycan Rock at least has some cool moves and cool abilities, so you can definitely make it happen. Armaldo. I guess Armaldo can also get C tier. I don't see Armaldo making too much things happen. Stone Jorner's interesting to me. And Wolf Glick did bring it to an international challenge and had some success with it. So I think it's not awful. Its ability is definitely cool. Power Spot is definitely a cool ability to have. It's very unique to this Pokemon. Its unfortunate thing is its special defense, but if you can give it a Sash and ignore that, then I guess you have options here. The only issue is its speed is in an awkward tier, especially right now with Zacian running around. A lot of these Pokemon hate Zacian, man. So it does kind of struggle in the current metagame for sure. Oh boy. Dreadnought. It does get Swift Swim. It is very strong in Swift Swim. But I don't think it's as good as Amistar. I think it belongs in a B tier here. B tier because it can be used, but isn't used. Kabutops, similar boat. Kabutops is like a physical version of Amistar. Does Amistar not get Swift Swim? I'm pretty sure it does. If not, it gets what's that ability? The one that if you lose defense, you gain speed. Something like that. It gets one of those. But yeah, Kabutops is kind of like a physical version of Amistar. Unfortunately, physical is very difficult to play around in this current meta because of all the Intimidators running around. So I go ahead and stick it in B tier. Rampardos is somewhat a worse Tyrantrum. Somewhat worse Tyrantrum. I'll stick it in C tier because Tyrantrum takes over the B tier here. And then Barbaracle with Shell Smash can be good. But you gotta set that Shell Smash up. Because if you don't set that Shell Smash up and you get Grass moved and Grassy Glided immediately, it's a sad time. It's a very sad time. And then last but not least, we have Aurorus. I'll give Aurorus top of B because it does something that the other rock types can't do, and that's set Hail. The unfortunate thing is that Hail isn't a great, weather. Because it doesn't really do much for the actual Ice-type Pokemon, which really do need a lot of help. Like, Sand gives special defense to rock types. Ice Pokemon don't get anything from Hail. So it's a very awkward situation. They really only get Slush Rush, and there aren't that many Slush Rush users in the game. So Hail doesn't really offer any benefit beyond 100 accuracy blizzards. But it also does get cool abilities like Refrigerate. So if you want to go a different route and, do Hyper Voice Ice beams, you can, but guess what? Blizzard exists, right? Which is essentially a hyper-voiced ice beam. But anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this tier list. If you did, do hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. We're coming down to the end of the tier lists. Now I have a challenge for you guys. If you made it this far, let me know down below in the comment section what Pokemon type do we still have left to do? We have one left to do on this channel. We've done 17 types. There's one left. Let me know what you think it is down below in the comment section, and let's go ahead and get on with the next video.